Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
I know words, I have the best words.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Tuesday. We got a great show for you all today. So thank you for tuning in on this terrible Tuesday. Terrible because of all the wonderful things that are going on today that are, of course, terrible. You know, climate change, climate destruction, corruption, nobody doing anything about any of all that stuff. So you know how it is. All right, anyway, great way to start the show, but we are going to have some fun. We have Matt Gaetz tries and fails to go after a teenage abortion activist. Fun. And by the way, it's pro-choice activist. We have a former Pence aide also going after Matt Gaetz, so he's having a pretty good week. Fun. We have Republicans in hypocrisy, specifically a Republican representative that voted against same-sex marriage going to a same-sex wedding. We have J.D. Vance and his terrible comments about abusive marriages, all sorts of regressive crap. We have MAGA conspiracies, of course, and Newt Gingrich decides to take on John Fetterman. I wonder how well that's going to go. All right. Anyway, so look, those are the stories we're going to talk about today. Make sure to like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Moonchild Dragon asks, when am I going to be on TYT again? I don't know. They have to reach out. You know, I have no idea when they're going to be interested in having me back on the show, but I would love to do so again. So I might have to reach out to them. So anyway, make sure to obey the stream. Obey. All right. Let's see. Let's start out with Matt Gaetz. Reach out and touch somebody. No, not without consent, because consent is sexy. Just saying. All right. Alleged groomer Matt Gaetz is getting called out for a little body shaming. Not only pro-choice activists, but the many women who are standing up for their own bodily autonomy. During a recent Turning Point USA event, Gaetz decided to try his stand-up routine, where he's going to call pro-choice women ugly.
Why is it that the women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions? Nobody wants to impregnate you if you look like a thumb. These people are odious on the inside and out. They're like 5'2", 350 pounds, and they're like, give me my abortions or I'll get up and march and protest. And I'm thinking, march? You look like you got ankles weaker than the legal reasoning behind Roe versus Wade. A few of them need to get up and march. They need to get up and march for like an hour a day, swing those arms, get the blood pumping, maybe mix in a salad.
Again, what's with the Seinfeld routine? What is he going to say next? Well, what is the deal with airline peanuts? I mean, come on, dude. What is wrong with you? Look at me. I'm so funny. I'm a right-winger and I make fat jokes. What are you, 12? Look, I understand that his preferred date would be around that age, but you want to talk about gross, right? Matt Gaetz, you're a gross person. You should be behind bars for sex trafficking. Yeah. So, no, okay. He goes around and he's body shaming pro-choice activists. One decided to respond. So this is a 19-year-old Olivia Juliana who responded to Matt Gaetz. Here's what she said on Twitter. It's come to my attention that Matt Gaetz, alleged pedophile, has said that it's always the odious 5'2", 350-pound women that nobody wants to impregnate who rally for abortion. I'm actually 5'11", 6'4" in heels. I wear them so the small men like you are reminded of your place. Ooh. Oh, damn. Get him. Now, Matt Gaetz, of course, responded with, basically, dander raised. Dander raised. Now, of course, that wasn't going to keep her down. She said, am I not a little too old for you, Matt? I know you have a thing for targeting teenagers, but 19 is on the cusp, don't you think? Oh, by the way, Matt Gaetz, my TikTok outlining your failed attack against me is now at 1 million views. I've gained 20,000 followers across all platforms. Let this serve as a lesson to all Republican politicians out there. If it's a battle of wit against me, you're going to lose. God damn. Now, she also, in another tweet, added, don't fuck with Texas women, and has outlined how she had taken on Ken Paxton, Greg Abbott, and added that thanks to the attention that she got from Matt Gaetz, aside from the, horrible, rape threats, weirdly enough, and violent threats that she got from right-wingers, his followers, so-called people who stand up for women, she ended up raising about $28,000 so far to help women access abortion care. She's specifically giving the charity the Gen Z for Choice Fund that splits donations between 50 abortion funds in states that need the resources the most. So she's turning this incredibly negative thing into a positive, and I love it. I mean, now, this also, by the way, illustrates who these right-wing men really are. They only judge a woman's worth on how attracted they are to those women. Oh, they see them as potential sexual conquests, brood mares, trophies. They do not think of women worthy as rights. Even more so if they're not attracted to you. So, look, these people are sick. If you're a Republican woman and you're voting for these freaks, what is wrong with you? I have to ask, what the hell is wrong with you? I mean, you're voting for someone who wants to control you, who doesn't think they're anything more than a walking, talking rib. And by the way, let me just say, this is why Gaetz likes him young, allegedly, because he thinks that maybe they're not smart enough at that age to see through his bullshit, But in the case of Juliana, she absolutely did see through the bullshit. And look, I'm going to show you a video here. The next one is Matt Gaetz responding to the backlash. You're not going to be surprised what he says here.
Mm-hmm. Is it safe to say that based off of your comments, you're suggesting that these women at these abortion rallies are ugly and overweight?
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
Be offended. Well, look at me. I'm so strong holding the principle, punching down. Yeah, okay. Well, we see how much you like to punch down at people with no power. All right. Now, Juliana did respond to that as well. She said, so Matt, why don't we have a public chat about the policies you've supported and voting on concerning family planning? I'm not offended. I'm curious. So now look, here's the thing. Matt Gaetz doesn't believe in family planning. He voted against keeping contraceptive coverage legal. Now go ahead and try to take away something, that the vast majority of the country, both Republicans and Democrats, support, and see how it goes, buddy. Let's see how your fellow Republican men feel about not being able to get laid, because there's no woman out there. And again, I've seen a lot of this. Not a lot of women out there are very interested in conservatives. Interesting. Wonder why that is. I see the stories about young conservatives on dating sites going, gee, if I say anything about being conservative, women don't want to date me. They don't want to have sex with me. They don't want to do anything like that. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, right. It's because they're trying to take your bodily autonomy away from you. That's what it is. So, yeah, just let your, these Republican men find out that you're trying to take away birth control. You fuck around, you're going to find out. And it's not going to be pleasant. All right. Moving on, we got more Matt Gaetz for you. All right, hopefully have the right video for this. We'll see in a minute. A top aide to Vice President Mike Pence had a scathing response to Matt Gaetz after he told a crowd that Pence would never be elected as president. Oh,
culturally something.
Wrong video.
Let me just say what everybody here knows. Mike Pence will never be president. Nice guy, not a leader.
Mark?
Well, I don't know if Mike Pence will run for president in 2024, but I don't think Matt Gaetz will have an impact on that. In fact, I'd be surprised if he was still voting. It's more likely he'll be in prison for child sex trafficking by 2024. And I'm actually surprised that Florida law enforcement still allows him to speak to teenage conferences like that. So I'm not too worried about Matt Gaetz. Thanks.
Oh, goddamn. Hey, I'd like to report a murder, because that's exactly what just happened. Okay, look, I love this for a couple of reasons. Number one, who doesn't like Republican and Republican crime? I think it's the best kind of crime. Let them fight. Just let them fight. Now, and secondly, and I think this is more consequential here, do you ever see Democrats say strong things like this? No. Hell no. Look, even a lot of the progressives in office, they do not say strong things like this. For example, in 2020, Joe Biden had taken the most donations from the pharmaceutical industry out of everyone running, more so than Donald Trump. And then, by the way, as a result of this, didn't do anything about lowering the price of prescription drugs. Now, again, he took more than Donald Trump. Donald Trump, after getting paid by the same pharmaceutical companies, also abandoned his plans to lower the price of prescription drugs. So, do you know what we call that? We call that corruption. That's because that's what it is. You have these pharmaceutical companies, these big corporations that buy off our politicians, and then the politicians do exactly what they're paid to do, to help the corporations. So that's corruption. Now, has any Democrat used that example? Any progressive that is serving in Washington right now, saying Joe Biden, President Biden, took this amount of money from pharmaceutical companies and now does exactly what the pharmaceutical companies want him to do? He is corrupt. He is corrupt by our system. Do you see that? No. No. Now, look, another example here, Cori Bush. I love Cori Bush, but she refused to answer whether she thought Joe Biden should step down and not run in 2024. She refused to answer the question. She's like, I got to go. No, you didn't want to answer the question because you didn't want to have to criticize Joe Biden. Progressives, you got to start calling out Democrats when they serve corporations over their constituents. You have to be strong. And I know the people in the media and in Washington and Twitter blue checks, they're going to say, how dare you attack your fellow Democrats? Well, wait a minute. The establishment attacks progressives all the time. And they think Joe Biden has gone too far left. It's laughable. Not even close to being true. Progressives, fight back. Fight back. Now, the reason that I say that is that, look, on the right, they actually do fight. Now, of course, these same Republicans, and maybe it's a little bit easier because at the end of the day, they still serve corporations, right? But they do challenge the Republican establishment. And yes, they, as a result, have a younger slate of politicians that, yes, are extreme, but they're winning. But the Democrats, though, we have the same people in power. We've had them for decades with very, very few exceptions. And that's, you know, a lot of, because progressives had, when they were strong, when they were actually coming out and speaking out and challenging the establishment, they won elections. And so, but the problem is, again, we have the same Democratic leadership that we have. And so that's why we're losing as progressives. It's not 1995 anymore, guys. People want Washington to actually do something to help working class Americans and young people. But see, this is why, and this is not an endorsement of Republicans. They are monstrous on policy. Again, definitely not an endorsement. But this is why people look at Republicans and say, well, at least you're fighting. At least you're trying to do something, right? And look, on a lot of their issues, they are winning. To be fair, though, of course, because I got to keep it 100, it is easier to be a Republican because all you have to do is destroy. Destroy, destroy, destroy. Whereas progressives actually have to try to build something. And it is much harder to build something than it is to destroy something. Especially when you're dealing with political nihilists like the Republican Party. But again, at least they're fighting for something. And people look at these Republicans and say, wow, hey, they're not robots. They're not out of touch. They're actually fighting back. They're representing me and all my horrible views. So look, by the way, to give some credit to Republicans for fighting on the right side, here you have Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Again, terrible people. I don't agree with their politics at all, but they've been running the January 6th committee, and guess what? They've been doing strong. They've been strong against Trump. They've been strong against the insurrectionists. And I would worry if the Democrats were in charge of that committee. And I know the committee chair is Benny Thompson, but it's been Liz Cheney out there doing the attacks. She's been running the show, and she's been very strong on this. Because I think Democrats would be too weak. In fact, the Democrats' plan for the midterms is not to run on policy positions. Even if they're doing the policy. No, what they're doing is they're crafting a message of, hey, look, those guys, we may not be doing great, but those guys are insane. Okay, and that's going to win you an election how? No, the plan is, and I've documented this yesterday, where these Democratic groups, they are funding Republican candidates, the extremist Republican candidates, instead of actually, funding Democratic candidates and funding progressives. They're funding Republicans. They're doing ads for Republicans to to elevate the crazy person, to do the Pied Piper strategy. Now, how did that work out? In 2016, not very well. Their plan is, hey, we might not be great, but those people, those guys are nuts. Have you seen the other guys? Have you seen the other guys? Okay, let's see how that works out. Actually, you know what? Let's not see how that works out because it's a dumb idea. Even CNN is calling it out. They're like, oh, yeah, you know, that might not be a good idea. And by the way, it is interesting that CNN actually calls it out because see, who do you think gets all the money from ads? CNN. These news, cable news media companies, they get that ad spending. And so that's, you know, it's a dumb idea when even the people that are getting the money are like, are you sure you want to do that? But like, no, the Pence aide, to get back to him, he's like, oh, Matt Gaetz, oh, you're going to come for me and my boss, which by the way, again, Mike Pence is a terrible person. He says, no, you're going to come for me? No, I'm coming for you. And I'm going to bring a bat and a blowtorch. Democrats, you might want to start thinking about doing the same and not just against progressives. All right. Moving on here. Let's get to the next segment. It's been pretty well established so far that Republicans do not care at all about hypocrisy. They just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Another example of this is over the weekend, Representative Glenn Thompson, a Republican from Pennsylvania, who voted not to ensure same-sex marriage is protected from the ultra-conservative radical Supreme Court, attended a same-sex wedding for his son. Because, of course, the bill Democrats passed through the House was a relatively clean bill that would repeal DOMA, require the U.S. federal government to recognize the validity of same-sex marriages, and would include protections for interracial marriages. So this is just a way to codify parts of Obergefell to protect it from Republicans. Now, that passed the House 267 to 157 on July 19th. 47 Republicans voted yes, along with all the Democrats. And so, again, you had the majority of the party saying no, we don't care about gay rights at all. Now, Thompson was among the many who chose to vote no. Funny enough, as I reported during after the vote, Republican leadership didn't put any pressure on their members on how to vote. So normally you would have them, whip the votes, and again, both sides have to whip the votes. They have somebody called it a whip, literally. And they didn't have that on the Republican side. They said, go ahead and vote whatever you want. Go ahead and vote your conscience on this. Okay, because we don't really care one way or the other. Maybe it's because they plan on blocking it in the Senate. Actually, maybe that's incredibly likely. But nonetheless, go ahead and vote any way that you want. We don't really care. It doesn't really affect our donors. Okay? This guy, Thompson, says, okay, well, my conscience says no. And then I'm going to go to my son's gay wedding. When asked about his presence at the ceremony, a representative for the Pennsylvania Republicans said the congressman was, quote unquote, thrilled. Congressman and Ms. Thompson were thrilled to attend and celebrate their son's marriage on Friday night as he began this new chapter in his life. This is Madison Stone telling NBC via email. She said Thompson and his wife are very happy to have a new son-in-law. Well, isn't that wonderful? If you were so happy about it, then why not actually vote to try to protect it? Honestly, why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Why don't you say, no, I am proud. I am proud of my son, and I want to protect his marriage to the person that he loves. Thompson said, no, I'm not going to do that. Are you kidding me? Oh, actually take a stand? Oh, show a spine? No. I'm a Republican. I'm not going to do that. Oh, no. Because I don't really care. I don't really care about hypocrisy. Well, if it, and here's the thing about this, it literally will cost him nothing to do. It's not the government paying to get everybody gay married or force people into them. There is nothing objectionable in that bill. Nothing. It just guarantees the freedom to marry who you want. Republicans, why do you hate freedom? For the 157 Republicans, why do you hate freedom? Why do you hate freedom? You'll never answer. You'll never answer. Now, Stone, in an email, went after this, because he got caught, and called and this is the bill's name, Respect for Marriage Act. He called it a political stunt. Quote, this bill was nothing more than an election year messaging stunt for Democrats in Congress who have failed to address historic inflation and out-of-control prices at gas pumps and grocery stores. You know that the Democrats actually tried to put forward a bill to stop price gouging, right? And Republicans were not in favor of this. What? Really? All right, but anyway, look, Bill. Okay, so there's a lot of things that Republicans have done, but let's get to the messaging, right? I think that's the important part. How is this? If you voted in favor of this, then wouldn't you also, if the entire Republican Party voted in favor of freedom, would you not deprive the Democrats of the message that Republicans were anti-freedom? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. Seems like a bit of a laid-up, right? You would protect marriage equality and nullify the Democrats' midterm messaging. And say, look, we all voted in favor of codifying and protecting same-sex marriage, Obergefell. We believe in that. We believe in the freedom to be able to marry. And but no, they can't do that because guess what? That would make too much sense. We don't do that here. And look, as a party, they don't care about protecting marriage equality. They hate marriage equality. Justice Thomas, Ben Shapiro, Ted Cruz, many of others have so far voiced support for overturning Obergefell, bringing it back to the bad old days where people who were gay had to be forced into the closet. Now, Republicans are also liars when they say, oh, don't worry, we're not actually going to go after gay marriage. It's settled. It's settled. Oh, well, so was Roe. Roe was also settled. These liars on the court, they said the exact same thing. Don't worry, we're not going to go after Roe. We're not going to go after 50 years of precedent. We're not going to do that. We promise. No, again, they lied. They lied. That's what they do. They're serial liars. The Republican Party is being controlled by extremists, evangelical Christian fundamentalists. They hate gay people. They hate trans people. They don't like the separation of church and state. Neither does the court. And if you think that you're going to stop with Roe, I got news for you. They won't. So sooner or later, this guy's son's marriage, the Republicans are coming after it. Now, either Thompson is so ignorant about his own party, or maybe he just loves the tax cuts, I don't know, or thinks, I'm powerful, I'm a Republican congressman, they're not going to come for my family. Sure, we're going to be fine, but I don't give a damn about you. Well, I think that is probably the most likely scenario because, again, hypocrisy is just Republican 101. All right. Let's go to J.D. Vance. Christians don't hate anyone. It's in the Bible not to hate. Well, you ought to tell your fellow Christians that then. Because they're absolutely using that book to hate other people. I don't think you've been paying freaking attention to what's going on in your country, dude. Ohio Senate candidate J.D. Vance thinks that women that are in abusive relationships should stay in those relationships for the kids. For the kids. So now he was talking to the Pacific Christian High School in California. This was in September, but this is recently unearthed footage by Vice. And in this speech or conversation, I should say, Vance was asked by a moderator about why men are giving up on fatherhood, and somehow he turns this around to be the women's fault.
Culturally, something has clearly shifted. I mean, I think it's easy, but also probably true to blame the sexual revolution in the 1960s. You know, my grandparents had an incredibly chaotic marriage in a lot of ways, but they never got divorced, right? They were together to the end, till death do us part. That was a really important thing to my grandmother and my grandfather. I was personally, and a lot of the kids in my community grew up in my generation, personally suffered from the fact that a lot of moms and dads saw marriage as a basic contract, right? Like any other business deal, once it becomes no longer good for one of the parties or both of the parties, you just dissolve it and go on to a new business relationship. But that recognition that marriage was sacred, I think, was a really powerful thing that held a lot of families together. And when it disappeared, unfortunately, a lot of kids suffered. And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, you know, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids of those marriages. And I
So look, there's a lot here to dissect, okay? So let me just start on him blaming the sexual revolution. Hey, you know what another name for that is? It's basically when women got reproductive rights. Birth control has not been legal for that long, only since 1965, thanks to Griswold v. Connecticut. It wasn't legal before then in all the states, in the entire country. In some places, sure. Now, Vance is saying, oh, women and men being able to control when they have children, it's really wrecking marriages. Oh, man. Another thing that Vance is blaming is women being able to make economic decisions for themselves. Along with family planning, women in the 1960s also gained the right to open their own bank account. Again, we have not had that. Women have not had that right for that long. Honestly, that's insane. In 1974, by the way, it took till then for the Equal Credit Opportunity Act to pass. Now, that was there to prohibit credit discrimination on the basis of gender. Before its passage, many banks granted credit cards to women only with their husband's signatures and outright refused to issue them to unmarried women. They couldn't get credit, they couldn't get loans, they couldn't get cars, they couldn't get home loans, they couldn't get any of that stuff. Which means that they were under the thumb. If they wanted any of that stuff, they had to be married. They had to be married. So what we had prior to the sexual revolution of the 60s, is women being forced into marriages in order to simply survive. It was a necessity. So now after that, the ladies, they didn't have to get married unless they actually wanted to, which many of them do, or many of them did. But they were able to be a little bit more choosy because they weren't tied to one person due to being able, having it necessary to survive due to their finances and children. And so now all of that triggered a lot of right wingers. Oh, and they've been salty about it ever since. That's why so many of them pine for the days where women were basically stuck with them and forced to play housemaid. Why do you think that we see chuds like Nick Fuentes, Matt Walsh, say like, oh, you know, we really need to bring back that arranged marriages. That's what we need to do. We need to, force women to have sex with men. That's what we need to do. We need to bring that back. Understand that this has never been about the family. It's never been about children and, being able to have a good, environment for children to grow up in. No, this isn't about any of that. It is about controlling women. Taking away reproductive rights from women is an attempt to control women. Taking away their ability to be able to, get out of a violent or a bad marriage. Well, that's trying to control women. Trying to keep them under the thumb of men in those bad relationships. And now, even when Vance goes back and correctly talks about the decline of manufacturing. So look, yes, in the Midwest, when he talks about the decline of manufacturing, when he talks about how that has hurt a lot of families and has hurt a lot of men, that's true. That's true. But the right-wing framing on this, and I'm always frustrated about it. Their framing is that it really frames men as snowflakes. It frames men as weak. Oh, men, once they lost the ability to out-earn their partners or be the only source of income for a household, they just lost their way. They lost their place, and they just can't figure it out. No, men aren't fucking stupid. What a lowly opinion you have of men. No, men are fucking kings, okay? We are. And you know what? Women are amazing as well. And guess what? We all have our unique talents and abilities and things that we bring to a relationship. But it only works if both people are invested in it. Instead, what these regressives want to do is they want to bring it back to a point where women have to depend financially on a man. That's not a relationship. That's not a good relationship. That's a shitty relationship. That's a relationship where you are not there because you actually like and want to be with that person. No, it's there because I have to eat tomorrow. And you know what? I can't do that if I'm not married and slaving away for this guy that I don't really care about. And the insecurity, these guys are so incredibly insecure with themselves. That's why they want to force women into these relationships. That's why they want to take away their rights. Because they think that if women have rights, that they'll never be chosen. That no one would want to be with them and no one will want to spend time with them. Because they don't believe in themselves. They have such a low opinion of themselves and low opinion of men. It's disgusting. You disgust me, JD Vance. What a disgusting person. Gross. All right. There's more, by the way, to get into more detail, right? So now, instead of encouraging men to learn new trades, to become entrepreneurs, to share the responsibility of bringing in income with their spouses and to be a team, a real team, or to even talk about policy changes that would help. Hey, if you want to live a traditional lifestyle where the woman stays home and takes care of the kids and the man goes out and works, well, okay, why don't you raise wages? So that men can earn more. And again, I don't have a problem if that's the way you want to live. Because I believe in freedom. I believe in choices. You don't. You don't believe in freedom. You're a goddamn authoritarian. That's what you are. You just want to control people's lives. That they want, the so-called good old days, right? Where again, women were forced to stay in the home, cook and clean, wash the socks, take care of the babies. If you want to do that, that's fine. It's a free country. But to think that you can sit there and make decisions for every woman, no, no deal. That's the real problem with the right wing. They want to make you live a certain way and control your life by stripping women of freedom. As for unhappy marriages, let's be clear. Not everybody's going to get along. Not every marriage is a good marriage. And you should have the option as a man or a woman to get out of those marriages with a partner that you don't get along with. And sometimes people will grow apart. Marriages do fail, and it does happen. And I think it's worse for everyone, if there are two very unhappy people that are forced into a marriage to live with each other in the same house. That's bad for the kids. That's bad for everyone involved. I have personal experience in that department. I grew up with an abusive parent and two people that should have never been married. So, JD Vance, you could fuck all the way off with your bullshit. Now, there's a difference, by the way, between going through a hard time as a married couple, which all married couples do, or many do, unless you're rich, financially, for example, or even that through illness in this country where we brutalize people who get ill by not having universal health care. There's a difference between all of that and actually dealing with an abusive partner. And so, look, I'm married. I love my wife. We've been through a lot together, hard financial times, good times. If she got ill, I'd absolutely be there for her. And I think most people would choose to do the same with their own partners. But there's a difference between being able to make that choice and not having a choice at all. Right-wingers want to take away your choice. They want to leave you with a possibly abusive partner because for some ridiculous notion of sanctity in marriage. And again, he's actually wrong. When he talks about how it's a contract, it actually is. It is a government contract that gives you, both partners, certain benefits. Example, taxes. But you also have things like, I don't know, being able to make medical decisions for your partner, things like that. So yes, it is a contract that you enter into. Now, that's different from the religious marriage, which again, there should be a separation of church and state here. But a lot of people will combine those two terms in those two things. But no, in order to get married, you don't have to have religion involved at all. At all. And so what J.D. Vance is referring to, that sanctity, again, only has to do with religion and should have no bearing on the legality of any sort of legal partnership. One more thing, abuse. Abuse happens in relationships more than it should. And a lot of people, they don't report it. They don't, again, they don't report it, like kind of like sexual assault example. It's deeply personal, right? And that's why it is deeply personal. Sometimes spouses will lie and cover for the abuse that they've received for the other spouse to try to not get them in trouble. There are a lot of complications, a lot of factors in this that, again, there's emotion involved. It gets messy. That said, what isn't messy and what's very, very clear is the reports on domestic violence. Okay. Now, JD Vance says, well, there's an explosion in domestic violence reports. So that doesn't actually mean that there's more domestic violence. That just might actually mean that people are feeling more comfortable reporting it because there is more support now for victims of domestic abuse. In a way, it's like conservatives freaking out about more LGBTQ people that are coming out and identifying, coming out of the closet, so to speak. But there's not more of them than there were before. They always existed. They're just more comfortable being out now than they were before. But this gets back to the overall goal of the right wing. JD Vance and the rest of them want to shove everything back under the rug, sweep everything under the rug, and shove everyone back in the closet. Because ignorance is bliss. It's so simple. Just erase gay people and force women into marriages where, they're getting abused, and we're just going to turn a blind eye. That's what we want. Well, again, they said it. They admitted it. When they said when they said make America great again, this is exactly what they meant by it. And when people tell you who they are, you should believe them. All right. All right, let's move on. The first batch of January 6 hearings ended with some pretty damning testimony, showing that former President Donald Trump knew that his supporters were looking to attack the Capitol to disrupt the certification, and that for hours, Donald Trump knew about it and refused to intervene. Now, in a speech the following day, Trump also really didn't want to mention anything about prosecuting the rioters because, again, those rioters were on his side. So now, how did MAGA country respond to the latest hearings? Well, CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan decided to ask, and, well, the answers are about what you'd expect.
Have you watched the January 6th hearings?
I have.
What do you think?
I think they're a bunch of bullshit.
Why?
Well, because do you have both sides, or are you getting one side of the story?
You mean like the side that attacked the Capitol?
You really believe that happened?
I was there.
Okay. I have a lot of people that were there too.
And
saw things that it wasn't what they say it was.
But there's been hundreds of Trump supporters now charged.
That was an inside job, buddy.
Have you guys been watching the January 6th hearings at all?
No.
No?
No, we saw it when it all went down, and then we saw like a lot of the BLM and the Antifa people in the building as well, and it's just nonsense.
But I think like 800 people now have been charged, right?
Yeah.
None of them are Black Lives Matter or Antifa.
Yeah, that
They're
doesn't
not
mean
charging
anything.
them.
That doesn't mean
They
anything.
have
in
not
this
been
country.
brought into court
And-
for their due process because they have not been arrested.
Hunter Biden hasn't been arrested.
Trump has told lies about the election in that he said he didn't really lose. Do you think that all the lies about the election are damaging for American democracy?
You believe he lied?
Do you not?
No, I do not. I don't. Why he won?
Okay. Okay. So, look, I don't know what the best response is on this one, but let's start out with, hey, that first lady. I think it's a bunch of BS. Well, okay. Why? Well, they're both sides. Are you getting both sides? Both sides of what? There were the rioters, and then there was not the rioters. Again, this brings me back to the, the people that were the Nazis in Charlottesville. Why don't we get their perspective? Why don't we ask them about their side? Oh, the people that were shouting, the Jews will not replace us. I'm not exactly interested in hearing that side, but okay. To be fair, on the January 6th hearings, well, they would love it if Donald Trump would go talk to them. Oh, yes, they would absolutely love it. In fact, they've been trying to get, and this is what's interesting about January 6th, the hearings, they've been trying to get Republicans to present their side. Why haven't they? Oh, that's very interesting. A good question, right? Why haven't they presented their side? Why hasn't Trump presented his side? Now, we've had a lot of Republicans that did go and, talk to the committee under oath. Like, for example, Ivanka Trump, who said some kind of damning things as well. But no, they're not seeing both sides. That's what it is. Again, what side? Okay, but now there's more. And this is the Antifa BLM. There was no Antifa or BLM. It wouldn't even make sense because you're going to say that that Antifa and BLM are going to show up to protest against Biden's certification, the guy that you think they ostensibly backed 100% in an election that you believe that they actually stole. What would be the point? It makes no sense. No sense at all. Different reality. I love it too, by the way. There's over 800 people that were charged, right? And they're all Trump supporters. And this guy immediately goes into squirrel like, oh, but Hunter Biden, he hasn't been arrested. What does this have to do with Hunter Biden? It has nothing to do with Hunter Biden. Again, different reality. Then it doesn't have to make sense. I saw things and it wasn't what they said it was. Oh, really? Well, there's video, there's body camera footage, there were live streams from the rioters themselves, text messages, testimony. If you had actually watched all the committee hearings, you would have seen all that evidence. You didn't watch it at all. You tuned in, or you might have just been like, oh, here's a Newsmax segment into how much the January 6th committee is lying. Oh, well, of course, it's Newsmax. I'm just going to watch that 5-minute, very heavily edited segment, and that's it. No, they said we were here to riot for Trump. That's what the rioters said. And when Trump told them to go home, guess what? They listened and went home. This is pretzel logic. Do you think that, by the way, Antifa and BLM would have listened to Donald Trump when he told them to go home? Pretzel logic. You have to bend and contort reality just to make it fit. And it still doesn't fit. So when you challenge them, you get nothing but Hunter Biden. That's basically it. Look, I understand that these committee hearings were never going to convince the Trump faithful. Obviously. But, I mean, these people tied their entire personalities, maybe even their livelihood, their lives, to worship this guy who doesn't care at all about them. They are cultists. But I am hoping that there are enough Republicans out there that are still tuned into reality enough to admit, oh yeah, I might have liked his policies, but I'm not exactly a fan of insurrection. In fact, there was one person, O'Sullivan later on went to a Pence rally, right? Which again, Pence, terrible person, terrible policies. But this guy's like, yeah, I voted for Trump twice, and I would vote for Mike Pence because Trump basically sat and cried the whole day on the certification. Well, I mean, hey, if that's how you're going to arrive at that conclusion, I guess at this point they said, look, I might have liked him, but I insurrection, just a bit too far. Just a bit too far. Hey, look, we're not asking for much, or at least it doesn't seem like it, to be against insurrection. But apparently, talking to these people, seems like we're asking way too much. Okay. One more story, y'all. I'm going to go to Newt Gingrich. Republicans keep making Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman seem even cooler than he normally is. In fact, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich is the latest one to attack the Pennsylvania progressive. Here he is.
Fetterman took down the American flag in his office in the Capitol to put up the marijuana flag and the gay pride flag. Tells you about as much about wokeness as you need to know. And I think that Fetterman has to carry the burden, first of all, of being Fetterman, who's kind of nuts. Second, he has to, which in the Democratic Party means he's sort of a centrist. And then in the middle of the state, which is a very conservative area, which actually voted for Ralph Landon over Franklin Roosevelt, he's got to carry the burden of just being himself. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I hope Rick Scott's not going to be too unhappy with me. We will win. For the foreseeable future, the marijuana flag will not fly at the U.S. Capitol. I know it's bold, but...
Oh, man, that flying the marijuana flag and the pride flag. How dare he? How dare he? Oh, wait a minute. So there it is. There's Pennsylvania. Yeah, the State House outside his office. You know what I say about this? Based. I love it. Now, Newt Gingrich looks at that and he's like, bad. Boo. You know, the majority of the country is in favor of legalizing cannabis. You know, the majority of the country is in favor of same-sex rights. I mean, again, talk about being absolutely out of touch. Out of touch. And once again, making John Fetterman look cooler. And by the way, this is even better. Fetterman is in a little bit of trouble over flying these flags. Turns out Republicans didn't want him to do it, but he did it anyway. Fetterman vowed to defy a law passed by Republicans to prevent him from flying these flags, and said, "Hey, if you keep taking them down, I'm just going to keep putting them back up. What are you going to do about it?" What are you going to do? He says he'll continue to do so until the state legalizes marijuana and outlaws discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. In the same bill, Republicans were able to sneak a law into to ban these flags, right, on Capitol grounds. They also had a chance to legalize cannabis and enshrine same-sex rights and discrimination based on orientation or identity. You can see what they did. Oh, you're going to take my pride flag? You're going to take my cannabis flag? Yeah, how about no? You know why? These colors don't run, bitch. What am I, Josh Hawley? No. By the way, again, Republicans stuck this bill banning these flags into an omnibus. So it's a must-pass bill, and they're like, sneak it in. We got to they'll put it right in there. You want to talk about cancel culture? This is a good example. Republicans are the OGs of cancel culture. It's what it is. In fact, here's what Fetterman said about all of this. Quote, "I was just making a statement. I never in a million years thought that they would actually write a law to ban them. They can't understand how ridiculous this looks. They're all about free speech, except when it's speech they don't like, apparently." Yeah, pretty much. Again, the right-wingers, they're the same assholes that want to ban cannabis flag and the pride flag, but want the Confederate flag plastered everywhere. Again, it's ridiculous. Now, Fetterman also finally added, you know, it's just flattering to be living rent-free in their heads like this. And again, this is not the first time that Newt Gingrich has gone after John Fetterman. And of course, Dr. Oz and his flailing campaign, constantly getting owned and ratioed by Fetterman on social media. You know what all that means? It means you're getting to him. Keep on it, John. Keep going. I love it. All right. So with that, that's all the stories I got for y'all. Let me read a couple of, let me go to Twitch here, actually. Fivehead Smoot Brain, thank you for subbing for a month at Tier 1. Appreciate that. Occam's Taser, thank you for gifting a Tier 1 sub to Groove Dragon. That's awesome. Let's see. Let's go to back to YouTube here. Tyler Hackner, thank you for the super chat saying, "We're thugs, want to control your life." True. Jonathan Leiter with a couple of super chats saying, "And First Women's Bank still exists." And then Jonathan Leiter also says, "It's the Jada Essence Hall School of Political Debate." Jada Essence, sorry. "Look over there. Don't get it. Google it." I will have to do so. Exactly. All right. So that's all I got today. Let me check to see if there are any new memberships as well, because for some reason it shows it on different windows. So I need to get into that. But if you haven't already, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. And again, you can support the show by becoming a member. Hey, Boulder Crypto Sissy Dragon, thank you for rejoining as a supporter today. All right. Thank you all. Love you, and let's see who we're going to raid before we do that. We'll do a reverse surfs raid. They raided us yesterday. We'll raid them today. So how's that? How's that for karma? All right, love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
It's not a salami sandwich. It's a viable baby in the womb.
And why their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated.
Disappointed! Oh, wow, I'm sorry.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.